Okay, I'd like to call to order the Town Commission regular meeting of September the 13th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Tom Peck,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Here.
Commissioner Fender,
Still here.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Here.
Okay, we have two proclamations this evening. The first one is the Treasure Coast Food Bank Proclamation. Would the town clerk please read the proclamation into the record?
A proclamation declaring September 2022 Hunger Action Month in Sewalls Point, Florida. Whereas hunger and poverty remain issues of grave concern in the United States, the state of Florida, the Treasure Coast, and in Sewalls Point, with 52,460 children and adults in Martin County now categorized as food insecure. Whereas Sewalls Point is committed to taking steps to raise awareness about the need to combat hunger in every part of our county and to provide additional resources that citizens of Sewalls Point need. Whereas Sewalls Point is committed to working with the Treasure Coast Food Bank and educating people about the role and importance of food banks and other hunger relief organizations in addressing hunger and bringing attention to the need to devote more resources and attention to these issues. Food banks and hunger relief organizations across the country, including the Treasure Coast Food Bank, will coordinate numerous events throughout the entire month of September to shed light on this important issue and encourage involvement in efforts to end hunger in their local community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by Sewalls Point Town Commissioners that September 2022 is Hunger Action Month in Sewalls Point and calls this observance to the attention of our citizens.
Thank you very much. And we have Alexandra Lord.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Good evening, my name is Allie, and I'm here with Andy today. On behalf of our President and CEO, Judy Cruz, our dedicated staff and Board of Directors, I would like to thank you for proclaiming September as Hunger Action Month. As a member of the Feeding America network of food banks, Treasure Coast Food Bank is leading the fight against hunger in our community by securing millions of meals and providing them to people facing hunger. We are proud to partner with more than 300 local food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, and other emergency food providers throughout Indian River, St. Lucie, Martin, and Okeechobee counties. Throughout the month of September, Treasure Coast Food Bank will be hosting many events, including our annual Outlaugh Hunger Comedy Show and our second annual Outrun Hunger 5K. For more information on all of these events and more, please visit our website at stophunger.org/ham. Thank you again for your continued support in the fight against hunger.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our second proclamation today is Keep Martin Beautiful International Coastal Cleanup Day. Town clerk, please read the proclamation into the record.
A proclamation declaring Keep Martin Beautiful International Coastal Cleanup Day in Sewalls Point, Florida. Whereas hundreds of thousands of dedicated volunteers with the International Coastal Cleanup pick up millions of pounds of trash from the shores of the world's lakes, rivers, streams, and oceans on the third Saturday in September each year. Whereas the International Coastal Cleanup is the largest volunteer event of its kind on behalf of the ocean's health. Whereas trash in the ocean and waterways is one of the most serious pollution problems of our time and is entirely preventable. Whereas the information about the types and sources of that litter recorded by the volunteers helps inform decision-making at the local, national, and international levels. the citizens of Martin County are joining people around the world in starting a worldwide sea change by pitching in to pick up marine litter on Saturday, September 17th, 2022, and working all year long to prevent it from reaching the water in the first place. Now therefore, I, John Tompeck, Mayor of the Town of Sewalls Point, proclaim that Saturday, September 17th, 2022, is Keep Martin Beautiful's International Coastal Cleanup Day in the Town of Sewalls Point. Further, the Town Commission commends the staff and volunteers of Keep Martin Beautiful who take on the challenge of removing litter and marine debris, beautifying and revitalizing communities in our neighborhood, making a positive difference in Martin County's quality of life.
Thank you very much, and I think we have John Vanilla here today.
Yes. Just want to say thank you to the mayor, vice mayor, and commissioners for your support. It's going to be a good day. We'll be out in the boat cleaning up spoiled islands and encourage everyone to participate and get involved. And it's a big day. We get a lot of trash off, and just want to say thank you guys for your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to public comments, and we have a few here. The ones that are specifically related to agenda items, I'm going to hold till we get to those agenda items. Let's see. So Art Schwartz has some general comments.
Good evening. Before I start, I would like to point out that what I'm about to say can be verified by several different links to confirm my statements. And I'm going to read. The Florida Oceanographic Society weekly report shows there have been only 3 beach advisories in the last 4.5 years. This is pertaining, of course, to the Indian River Lagoon. If the lagoon water were bad, the Florida DEP would have put it in the basin management plan. The north and central lagoons belong to the basin management plan, but nothing south of Fort Pierce does. Communities in the basin management plan are mandated to reduce their nutrient discharges by a certain amount. The St. Lucie River is impaired. It is in the BMAP, but the Florida Department of Environmental Protection 2018 5-year plan report based on actual water analysis states that Sewalls Point was not assigned a target figure for nutrient reduction because our contributions to the total load is relatively low. So the question I ask is, should we believe the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, which does lab testings on the water and doesn't classify the lagoon as impaired, or should we believe CapTech report, which claims that our nutrient contribution is severe? As I said, there are many links for what I just said, and if necessary, I'd be happy to provide them. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Art, you have another public comment for staff. What is that related to? Is that related to one of the agenda items?
Yes.
Okay, we'll call you back then. All right, do we have any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes. That brings us down to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us down to public hearing, ordinance, first reading of ordinance number 443, rezoning of 7 Heritage Way lot. Let's get started with the town attorney reading the ordinance title into the record.
All right, ordinance number 443 is an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, changing the zoning classification of property located at 7 Heritage Way, Sewalls Point, Florida, from PS1 Public Services to R1 Residential, finding conformity with the comprehensive plan, approving amendment to the zoning map, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you very much. The next item is public comments, and I think I have one public comment form. Carlos Cabrera.
Good evening. My name is Carlos Cabrera, and I'm here to say the Cabreras are opposed to the development of 7 Heritage Way. We live on 2 Heritage Way. I've written the commission before, the mayors before, on this topic, and I'm surprised we've gotten to the point where we're still talking about rezoning when virtually no one on the block is for it. I've seen emails go back and forth on the architect's plans on putting a house in around the tree. No one's going to pay that much money for a house with low ceilings. I think it's short-sighted by this commission to sell. And you know, the reason we moved here is because of these pocket spaces, these quiet spaces that are nice, and I think we're just going to ruin that. Frankly, all the space needs is a bench, and everyone on that block that lives on Heritage will agree with me. Everyone that lives on Riverside will agree with me. We don't need to touch it. We do not need to touch it. I've heard it referred to as an idle asset. This is land. You don't need to touch it. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other commission comments? I have no other public comments. Any commission comments?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Additional commission comments? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us down to ordinance number 444, amending Chapter 62, Marine Activities, Facilities, and Structures. Would the town attorney please read the ordinance title into the record?
Thank you. Ordinance number 444 is an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point, Florida, amending Chapter 62, Marine Activities, Facilities, and Structures, Article 3, Marine Structures, Division 2, Marine Structure Regulations, Subdivision 1 in general, Section 62-132 definitions, Subdivision 2 permit, Section 62-151 permit requirements, non-conforming use, Subdivision 3 technical requirements and standards, Section 62-175 roofs, and Section 62-176 variances to authorize the Board of Zoning Adjustment to consider alternative compliance applications for boat lift covers and for other purposes, prime severability, the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you. A call for public comments. Jackie Federlevich.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. It seems like the meeting's moving very quickly tonight. Just needed to calm down a little bit before I would say something. I'm sorry for coming in a little bit late. I thought it started at 5:30 for whatever reason. I forgot it started at 5:15. All I would say with some of the comments that I've heard tonight is thank you to those of you who are seriously thinking about the seagrasses. I know that you all care. It is your opportunity to be stronger than DEP. If we judge ourselves by and I sit on the South Florida Water Management District, and I have many friends on DEP, you know, who work for DEP. Drew Bartlett, who is our executive director, used to work for DEP. But unfortunately, one of the reasons we're in the state that we are with our waters is because of DEP. It had many different names over the years. And you know, the joke more recently was that DEP stood for Don't Expect Protection. And that's the truth. They are a reflection of the governor and the executive branch, which is a good thing, and all things are. But at the same time, what generally happens is it's based on business, it's based on money, it's based on permits. Look at what's happening to our town. Look at our county, Stewart, what was going on tonight. You are voted on this board to be the protector of this beautiful place that we live. please don't give it away. Be hard, be a strict teacher, please. And thank you very much. I admire all of you. I know you're working as hard as you can and you're trying to do what's right. The most right thing we can do is protect our natural resources for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, that brings us to discussion among the commission. We did, obviously, look at this in some detail at the LPA meeting with the commission.
I do have an update before you do that.
Okay, I guess we're going to have a little presentation.
It'll be very short, I promise.
At least an update, anyway.
Well, basically, one of the questions from the previous meeting was whether or not there was a fee for seagrass. There is. Y'all passed it on May 24th, and it's $1,000. So that's already in your fee schedule. It doesn't belong in this ordinance. And for the opportunity of the attorney, there was a little discussion between the version that's at your dais and the one that was in the packet. So we made those changes, and that's all I have to say about that. But I did want you to know that the fee is in there.
Thank you.
Okay, and the strikeouts that we talked about at the LPA meeting is the 24 hours prior to the storm, and may rather than will if they do not remove the cover.
Okay, thank you.
We're keeping it 20.
Okay, are there any additional commission comments? I'm sorry, Mr. Daniels, you have something you wanted to add here?
I just wanted to add, when this meeting ends, I'd like to get Glenn and Bonnie together so we can make sure we're better coordinated. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Kurzman.
Yeah, I do want to make a comment. The seagrass is coming back, and it's been making a great comeback, especially over the past few months. And this, I agree with former Mayor Lipich. It's just something that I agree with her. We can't ignore it, and for that reason, I'm going to be a no vote tonight.
Okay, I think, not sure I understand exactly why.
Because what's happening when you put something, seagrass needs sunlight. When you put a boat cover or something covering over seagrass, it's going to die. And when you hit different things, just like you can't grow grass in this room right now, even though you could grow grass outside of here. Why? Because there's a roof over us. And
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't anything new from what we previously discussed. This has been your
no.
position for a while.
Yeah, but now we're actually seeing seagrass come back, especially over the last few months. And it's the first time we've seen an improvement in seagrass in quite a while. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, so when something's coming back, to put something over it to prevent it from coming back, it makes no sense to me.
Commissioner Fender?
So no one's a stronger advocate of seagrass than I am, but we're talking about a boat cover over a boat that's already covering the seagrass. So we're not really adding additional cover to the seagrass. We're covering a boat that's already blocking the sunlight. So.
Okay. Do we have any, Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 444.
A second?
Can we have more discussion?
Go ahead.
So the reason we held up on LPA is because there were concerns about wording of this document. To me, the document has not changed. There seems to be some structure and some formatting issues. The reason I pushed it forward in LPA is to avoid the bureaucracy, but now we're to the point where bureaucracy, where we can actually do the business. So I don't want to push it faster than is appropriate. So are we going to wait till the second reading to get the properly formatted document? Or is that your suggestion on how we're moving this forward quickly?
Me?
Since we have two, well, I'm trying to move it forward quickly, but I also want to make sure we don't move it too quickly. So I pushed it forward in LPA to avoid bureaucracy. Now I want to make sure we have the adequate amount of bureaucracy to do the right thing.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, in my opinion, the changes were not substantive in terms of what the commissioners who voted no were referring to. The changes were keeping variances in, which was already in our code, and then just adding the alternative compliance, which was, in the first one we had done.
This is
as
first
opposed to
reading, we'll
replace-
have a second reading.
Yes, as far, yes.
All right. With that, the fact that there is a second reading, I will second the motion.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tom Peck?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman?
No.
Commissioner Campo?
Nay.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to our discussion items, land acquisition, South Sewalls Point Road Phase 3 improvements. Mr. Daniels.
Yes, we are moving along with looking at different financing options for land acquisition. We are also looking at some contractual language that we're dealing with. And I think one of the main things that we're moving along with is the thought process that we're going to retain the property until the construction period is over, and then do something else with the property. We have in front of us at the dais, and we just got this today, but there are other grant opportunities if the town wish to hold on to the property. We don't have to make that decision tonight. That's why it's not really an agenda item, but just food for thought. If we don't need all of the property for the purposes of STAs and so forth. There are other options that are out there, and I just want to make sure as we move down the road that we're addressing all the concerns of the commission. So, that's what I'm trying to do. Now, it might mean that, I might be asking you to, when we get closer in of having a meeting that might not be one of our normally scheduled meetings. And I know we're meeting to death in this month of September, but, we are trying to meet certain deadlines to get that job accomplished.
Is there any discussion or questions from the commission? Thank you. I guess that brings us to, I just lost my agenda here.
Performance.
Performance. That brings us to 12B, Town Manager Performance Measures. And before I call for public comment, let me just give a brief introduction on this item. In the Town Manager's Employment Agreement in the Compensation Section 3D, states that the Town Commission may award an additional increase of up to 5% for outstanding performance. We'll be discussing Town Manager's yearly increase probably in the middle of next year, and I thought we needed to establish some performance goals so that we can make a quantitative review of his performance. Our current review form can still be used for qualitative review. By establishing performance goals, we're also telling him what the Commission feels are the most important issues. I put together the first draft of these performance measures, and I've discussed them with Mr. Daniels. What we're looking at this evening is for comments, changes, additions, so we can bring it back to the Commission for finalization in the not-too-distant future. We may also wish to add some dates for completion to some of these items that are listed in the goals section. And with that introduction, I'll open it up for public comment. And let's start with Kent Hoffman.
Good evening. Ken Hoffman, 42 Rio Vista Drive. Commissioners, Town Manager Daniels, I am speaking tonight in regards to the Town Manager's performance goals. Obviously, most specifically, the goal of developing a plan for septic to sewer conversion, which I will remind everyone is still not an approved project. It's been quite some time since I last spoke at a town meeting, and yet here we are again. 1 year, and we as concerned citizens, residents, are still voicing our negative concerns regarding the S2S project. But it's still on the list. No worries, as I really do not think much has changed in your minds. I am sure all 5 of you remember well. Same story, I guess logic and common sense are still not just thrown out the window in this political process. I'm sorry to say this, but I think we have lost 5 Sewalls Point caring, friendly, reasoning, loving neighbors to political insanity due to the fact that you are all now true self-serving politicians. Personally, I find it difficult to even listen to you speak. Who among you has the courage to stand up and actually listen to the residents, as opposed to just those who agree with you or the outside politicians? Who among you has the courage and common sense to actually present scientific data which proves that all septic systems are actually damaging our estuaries? Who among you has the courage to listen and better understand how combined sewer systems are actually not the perfect solution, and in some cases, detrimental solution? I challenge you to all stop being politicians and think with common sense and logic. Just to be 100% transparent, I wholeheartedly agree that some properties in Sewalls Point should be required to connect to sewers, typically those properties found in flood zones. I do not agree with all property owners in Sewalls Point carrying the load for those homeowners who knowingly bought in the flood zone and had questionable septic systems. I also do not agree with the property owners in higher elevations who chose to not manage or maintain their septic systems properly. Why should all other property owners bail these owners out of their own self-induced problems? What about North Sewalls Point property owners? Are you now going to make it mandatory for those homeowners to connect? What about their financial burden, many of whom are currently have no financial burden? Okay. So in closing, here's my honest opinion. I honestly believe that the decision to convert to combined sewers has been already made by the powers outside of Sewalls Point, i.e. Martin County Utilities and or state. With that stated, I also honestly believe that none of you have courage or the desire to fight that fight and stand for the residents of Sewalls Point who are against this conversion. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie Flynn.
Bonnie Flint of 6 Palmetto Drive. Good evening, Commissioners, Town Manager Daniels.
Hi.
I'm here, I hope, to help you out. We've all gone through these things in our careers, and it's helpful to have things specified of what you're handling and what to shoot for. And we welcome you and embrace you here in the town. I caught my attention, just like Ken. This is happening the cart before the horse. Once again, this has been going on for 3 to 5 years, that we don't come to a scientific decision, we don't come to a canvassing, a promised ballot over a year ago by 3 of you commissioners to the residents, and those things haven't been done, and even the ballot was delayed by time for another $100,000 study with Joe and his firm, which he does good work, but a little expensive, and we aren't there. It's not fair to put, a plan in your goals. It's not appropriate. You know the territory, apparently from your background, and you hopefully will be a great resource to us. But I think it's entirely inappropriate to put this in performance goals for our new town manager when you, the commission, have not put in place the checks and balances and moved the issue along in the face of the townspeople. You're kidding yourselves if you don't take it upon yourselves to take the steps, please. Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any other public comments. Let me let me address the 2 public comments that we did get, because I think it's important. When I first wrote this down, what I wrote down here was develop a plan for septic to sewer conversion for the town commission's consideration. We've been batting this thing around for a long time, and, we're waiting on the report from, CapTech, which will give us some options that we can at least look at. We don't have a plan, so we really haven't come to the point where we can make a decision one way or the other. So all I'm asking here from the town manager is to push to get us a plan so we can at least consider a plan. And that's why I put it in that way, for consideration, not for him to make a decision, but a plan for us to at least have a discussion about and figure out how we want to proceed. Anyway, Mr. Campo.
Yeah, I accept in good faith the intention of the mayor, and I think just having town manager performance goals is a tremendous achievement and something that we haven't had in the past. And I would probably say that, the words that I might use might be, rather than developing a plan, and I think you probably agree with this, is, develop proposals and scenarios for implementation for the town consideration. Because this is not decided. I mean, I've talked to people on, from my information, it's not a decision that has been made. But this is a time to make the decision. This is what Commissioner Kurzman has always said. I just want to have an up and down. But you can't have that unless you have numbers. I mean, if it came out to be the same scenario that we have in North Sewalls Point, where it was optional for $8,000, and we could wait until people got their septic tanks, where they needed a permit, I would probably go along with that, I'll tell you. But I don't think we're there yet. And I think that we're about to make a decision probably in the next, 3 months or 6 months. And it's going to be based upon a multitude of factors, including the environmental impact and the combination of systems and costs, scenarios. So I might ask the mayor or the commission, to maybe tweak the wording rather than developing a plan, to developing proposals and scenarios for implementation with costs. I think that's, possible. I think that's probably more what we're trying to do.
And I didn't word it very well. That's really where I was headed.
I know.
Okay.
I totally accept that. And I think, again, you deserve a great deal of credit for performance goals, because the format that we have for now for evaluation is a little, so having said that, and I appreciate, Kent, you coming up with that, I would like to talk about dates. I think that's a good thing. I'd like to have implementation, and I'm going to put Joe on the spot. He loves it when I do this, but I'd like to, Joe asked, just to show you that I'm listening. We have flooding issues in Sewalls Point. We live on a peninsula, and we have determined that our number one objective, capital improvement, first things first, is to solve that issue. And there's 3 stages. It's water storage, water conveyance, and water, I had it written down, I forgot, sorry. Discharge, okay, sorry. And we've all agreed that our number one objective, everyone, and there was even some discussion when we talked about the budget, that accentuated how important the commission thought that spending the money that we've got be targeted toward South Sewalls Point Road. So anyway, I accepted the charge of the town engineer to come up with scenarios for us to purchase some land, and I think we've got the ball rolling. So I'd like to know from both the town manager and the town engineer the implementation of Phase 3, formerly known as Ridgeland to Pineapple, hopefully now known as Ridgeland to Riverview, if we can accomplish stretching it a little bit south. If it would be realistic to think that this time last year that project would be finished. And I'd like...
This time next year.
This time next year, what did I say?
Last year.
Yeah.
That's really optimistic.
Yeah, give me a realistic goal. I can't go in the past.
That's just the way I roll, no
Well,
kidding.
that's why I thought, I didn't want to put a date on that,
No, but
Joe.
I-
I thought,
yeah.
you know, I know we're in the permitting, engineering phase here, and soon, hopefully soon to be land acquisition phase. Please come on up.
Okay, so I'll try to answer that as quick as I can, because usually I kind of take a little longer than you guys like, but. So first of all, as you know, we've broken up South Sewalls Point into 4 areas, and they're pretty much equal in length and so forth. And we've done phase 1, and we've had some comments from the public, and just so you know, we've been listening to those comments, and we've been making some adjustments. And even from last week, we'll make some more adjustments. But I do believe the concept and the plan we are working under does work. We raise the road. We provide drainage for the road. We provide drainage for the adjacent properties that are lower. And just like Commissioner Campos said, they're all based on storing water, treating water, and then we've got to convey that water, and then we have to discharge it. And we believe that one of the biggest problems that we have in what is considered the Phase 3 project, which is from it currently lies between the subdivisions of Rio Vista all the way to Ridgeland, okay? That's considered Phase 3, and essentially that's what we've laid out, but I want to make sure everybody understands we are not only designing a stormwater system while we're doing this, we are also replacing the water mains, okay? So I have to remember I'm looking at more than just your budgets. I'm looking at budgets that I've been able to convince, or we've been able to convince, I'll say, the Martin County Utilities to replace the water mains while we do all this, okay?
Okay, so that's, for the public, that's potable water.
That's potable water.
Okay.
So.
Not septic sewer.
It's not septic to sewer, okay? It's just potable water. So to answer your question, can we accomplish this by next year this time? The answer is yes. However, if we're going to expand the project, and I have to let you know, we've gone through about a year, not 2 years, depicting this as the range that we've talked about. Basically, I'd have to convince them to extend their lines, and maybe they don't have the budget, maybe they do, but I will work on that. The second thing is we will have to tie that system for Riverview. It goes Riverview, Pineapple, then we would get into Rio Vista. So we'd be adding 2 more sections, okay? Certainly, as you know, the stormwater system and the grants that we're pursuing address flood control. That's the first thing. So flood control is a big objective because we're getting a lot of money to try to make sure these houses don't flood, and the road is elevated so people can pass on that road. So that's one objective. The second part of this objective is we have to address water quality treatment. We cannot get a permit to do anything out there unless we address stormwater quality and nutrient load reduction. It's a requirement of discharging into the Indian River Lagoon. It's there, so I cannot get any of these major changes without those happening, okay? So I do not doubt that we can accomplish water quality treatment by having a lot that has it provides us more volume for treatment, okay? That certainly can happen. I still have to, and we also get an outfall with Riverview, okay? Which is currently there. We've been making improvements to that outfall. But that water from there still has to get to Mrs. Riley's, the lot that we're acquiring, okay? And so we are putting that line in to Rio Vista. We will have to extend it. That does not mean that I won't have to make some of those pipes a little bigger, okay, to get that water to convey there. So I want you to know we will be able to get water quality. Whether I can get the stormwater the storm levels to drop will be dependent on the size of the pipe and the conveyance system to get to the discharges. And so all I'm telling you is that may sound easy, but remember, we're pretty low lying in this area, okay? So that's the thing that I am more concerned about as far. Do I see benefits? Yes, I see the benefits of still providing treatment for that area. So I know I've kind of said a few things that maybe, I don't want to confuse you all.
I agree with you 100%, other than the fact that we always were talking about Pineapple. It's really only one additional street. We were always talking about Pineapple to Ridgeland.
Well, Pineapple comes, it transitions down to Pineapple, just so you know. That's the way it's laid out.
Okay.
So,
But
but
I-
it's to that subdivision. You are correct. You are correct. It is to that subdivision.
But I appreciate the clarification, and all I heard was yes. I'm sorry, I'm just saying.
Well, I think, we're trying to, you got some longer term and you got construction projects, and we know what happens sometimes with construction projects. We want to put a target in here, okay? Because, we want to put targets for all these items that we can. We don't necessarily expect the town manager to meet every target. Matter of fact, if he meets every target, we haven't done our job. We haven't made it tough enough.
I think
Okay?
it's tough enough, Mayor.
But I think it's reasonable, based on what you're saying, that, the majority of Phase 3 can be implemented by this time next year.
Yes, so
Yes.
let me just give, there's one other item we have not spoken about, and that is grants, okay? So we have 2 grants for this project, okay? We are going to have to, first of all, the biggest problem we've had with these grants is both of them, or at least one of them, okay? The HMGP requires acquiring land, okay? HMGP will pay for that. We are waiting on them to go to the phase of the grant that allows us to acquire the property. We are pushing them. We've been pushing them for 2 years, technically, on the grant, but the fact of the matter, that is an item that we are working on. But again, that is a federal grant. It goes from FEMA at Florida level, then it goes up to FEMA at the federal level, and in the past, we've had to call in some favors to get that pushed along. We may be doing that, so I'm just pointing it out. It's not always as simple as, and that I control.
I know, and I'm happy to call in any
Right.
favors, and I'm sure the other commissioners are happy to work to what extent they can. I think we're posturing the land swap between the Heritage. It's basically a third of an acre for a third of an acre. But the third of acre that we're going to end up with on 78 is going to be a lot more useful. And this is practical. This isn't studies. I mean, my daughter turned my Altima Nissan car into a boat going down that stretch underneath the canopy. It can get really bad, and we're just dodging a bullet with the drought that we've experienced. So I appreciate your help. Do you want to add anything, Bob, as far as the timetable for that project, about a year out?
I think a year out is probably a good look at it. Whether it's, to me, a project is finalized when we're done with all the punch list items and everything else. And I think this commission has heard some of those items come up that weren't properly addressed. So the substantial completion will probably be there, but in my heart of hearts, I'm not going to consider it complete until we get everything done, everything signed off, and then we can walk away and move to the next phase. So I'd love to do that within a year. Is it possible? Yes. Will it happen? I'm going to try my darndest.
Perfect.
And I like the term substantial completion. Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Commissioner Campos said. Previously, I was going to go reiterate a lot of the things that you said beforehand, but I think it's important that people realize that I know quite a few of the commissioners up here said they're not in favor of mandatory sewers. I want to make that clear as well because I heard the comments. The other thing is the reason why we haven't done the ballot, and this is something I've been pushing over and over, is because we don't have a number yet. We have to know what this is going to cost. You can't say we're going to vote for something, but we don't know what the cost is, in all fairness. I know that our town engineer, he's been busy trying to help us with grants and go through things with Phase 3, so I know it's coming very close. I know we're not far from it. For us to go out and put something, to put on to be able to vote on something, you can't do it with a blank thing and say, I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know what kind of system it's going to be. We don't know what the cost is going to be. The other thing is we use the word mandatory, non-mandatory. There's a lot of things involved, so, it's just going to take, we're very close. We're getting there. And just need a little bit of patience with everybody. Please understand, we're working on it, and that's pretty much it right now. Patience.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, for putting this together, because I know we talked about it, and thanks for taking the initiative, making it happen. Along with those changes to the septic to sewer one, and we were just obviously talking about Phase 3, and it kind of got touched upon, but implementation is a bit of a broad word. Is there some better, what did you, somebody said substantially, I feel like implementation is a little broad.
We're really looking for is construction completion, I think.
That's a bold goal, I like it. But
Well, bold goal, a substantial construction completion, something like that.
okay, yeah.
Okay, I can put that in.
And then the safety plan to assist in a safer working environment, I'm just curious, what does that look like? Is that just like
I
a,
think what I was thinking about there is, do we have, worker safety is obviously important. Most organizations have some type of a safety manual, which, identifies personal protective equipment, other procedures, and I didn't know if we had one or not, and I don't think we necessarily do have one.
okay.
And I don't think it's a tremendous effort, but I think we ought to have a safety manual for all our folks.
And I agree with that. I think safety is really number one with employees. Number one, we have to set them up with the proper training and the proper equipment that they know how to use. And, the police department's usually pretty good about doing that. And I know the chief is working hard to make sure that the police officers are safe as they can be. But, things can happen within the working environment very easily. So a lot of it is repetition of working with all of the employees to make sure they do things safely. And, for us to point out if things are an unsafe condition, let's go get it fixed. Let's take care of that issue before somebody gets hurt.
Okay, thank you. And then last of all, real quick, develop a plan for employee retention. I feel like at the budget, Dan had touched upon some of those things. Were you thinking of something beyond those things that we approved with the budget, or?
Not necessarily. I think, just something we should think about. I mean, it's important that we retain all our employees, because they're all very good. And, in today's market, there's a lot of mobility for people to move around, and we certainly don't want them moving around. So that's why I think you ought to think about it, and see if there's a way we can, come up with.
I've got some suggestions already, so,
Okay, that'd be great.
you're looking at those.
Now, the first item was the communication plan. Is it, can we put a date on that one? I would think that we should be able to develop that in 2 or 3 months at the most. I don't know,
You want to put January?
that'd be fine. Okay, some of the other ones don't necessarily need dates. I mean, it's important to, to continue to comply with all the laws, ordinance, and policies and for the town budget, and I think that's, that's almost a qualitative assessment rather than a quantitative assessment, until you go south, then it becomes a quantitative assessment. Working with our local, state, and federal legislators, and, what we're talking about there is, meeting with the, our state senator, our state representatives, and, that's particularly important as we, as we move through the grant process, appropriations process, any kind of help that we need there. So that's regular meetings with the Martin County administrative personnel. I know you're having those kind of meetings. We need to continue to have those kind of meetings. One of the things that I'm real concerned about, and I've beat this one like a rented mule, is the managing the development, award, and implementation of grants. And as you know, I'm not happy about that, but I'm hoping that we can get that squared away a little bit. Another 2 weeks has gone by, and I still don't have my list.
Yes.
And of course, we talked about last at the budget meeting about really conducting the strategic planning session in detail with
I've talked to
Coast Regional Planning Council.
I've talked to Kim Delaney already about that. So.
Okay. Because we essentially prioritize the items we wanted, because they're in the budget. But I think we want to look at longer term as well. So I don't know what, obviously I got the comments that you've given me here. I can incorporate those. Are there any additional performance goals at the, Commissioner Mayfield?
Do you envision this, I might be getting ahead of the game here, do you envision this going along with the kind of evaluations we filled out before as a addendum, or is it, have you thought?
I think so. I think,
Uh-huh.
you know, right now, the way the employment agreement is set up, that we can give him a raise similar to what the other town personnel have gotten. And so, but we certainly wanted to look at the, the qualitative review we've done in the past. I don't have a problem with that, but I always felt that it was really hard to make an assessment based on that qualitative review of, is the town manager really following what we want him to do and doing it when we want him to do it? Because it was so, it was more, excuse the term, but touchy-feely than, based on actual results and things. So that's why I thought this was important, especially if you're evaluating, evaluating an incentive payment. The other thing that I thought about was that, and I'm not gonna, don't want to dredge this one up for the obvious reasons, but if we'd had a, performance goals for our previous town manager, it would have gone a long way to, to making sure that the evaluation we did there was done correctly.
Can I?
Sure.
So I asked that question because I was going to say, but I don't think, based on what you're saying, I don't think we need to add this one because you're talking more like the measurable, achievable goals for the year. I wanted to make sure we had something about the communication with the commissioners and the agendas and whatnot, but that would probably be taken care of in the more touchy-feely evaluation?
Well, I think it would, but it also, I think you'd
I don't
want
know if you
to
wanna
include
add that.
something about that in the communications plan.
Okay.
So
Okay, so I was thinking communications with the residents, but you were talking communications with.
Overall
Okay,
communications,
okay.
I think.
both.
Mayor,
All right.
was there a public comment on this item?
Yes, there were two public comments. Both had to do with the poor wording that I put in for the septic to sewer conversion.
I thought there was one more.
I think Mr. Swartz has.
I'm sorry, was there one more? I'm sorry, Art, why don't you come on up?
This won't take 3 minutes, I promise you. I think this is magnificent, the performance goals. There's one element that's completely missing, and it's something that I think our town manager has experienced in the past, and that is outreach to the residents and the ability to quantify that in some sort of a monthly, quarterly, semi-annual meeting with residents in order to discuss issues. Because let's face it, we don't have interaction opportunities with the commissioners. And certainly I know his door is open, but wouldn't it be a great idea if there was a periodic opportunity for the town residents to be able to meet with the town manager to discuss whatever it is to be discussed, even if an agenda was put together ahead of time?
Yeah, I think we,
That's part of the,
Yeah, I
it's
think-
part of the communications plan is.
Yeah, I had
I
a,
didn't see anything along those.
well, it didn't get written down here, but one of the things I did talk with Ms. Daniels about is something like a coffee with the mayor once a month, or coffee with the town manager once a month, which I think is a good idea.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Just on that note, if I can, my version of it is breakfast with Bob, so it's a little bit more personable, but we are going to start that in October, so.
All right, that brings us, is there any other, if it's okay with the rest of the commissioners, I'll make some modification to this, forward it to Mr. Daniels, and he can get it out to you so we can maybe finalize it at the
Next meeting?
next meeting.
Yeah, and thank you.
putting it together.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
That should be 2 weeks.
Okay.
27th is our.
All right, I think that brings us to any staff comments?
I have a couple more that aren't related to this, that I just kind of wanted to spend some time on real quick. Being here a month, there's things that have been done and, I think we can improve on as a staff. As I mentioned, getting the items correct in front of you when your time is valuable. I want to make sure you get the correct ordinances, the correct agendas. So I'm going to be meeting with staff tomorrow, and we're going to come up with some realistic deadlines. But my goal is that if we find something after that deadline that's incorrect, we're going to pull that item. And we're not going to waste your time on it until we can put it in front of you with the correct information. So, you know, I realize there's some time-sensitive issues, and that's just going to put the focus on myself and the staff, but we're going to try our darnest. You know, we're not all perfect, but I do want to make sure that we get the best product in front of you and in front of the town. You know, they look at the agendas and they look at the attachments, and I just want to make sure that, you know, we're transparent and, you know, what we're giving out to you and to the town residents is the correct items. And so I'll be meeting with staff and with our contracted staff and just make sure that we're following that. I'm also, deadlines for presentations. You know, that's another thing. You know, we should know by the time you get your packet what the presentations are, what the resolutions are. So we're not going to change. So just like, you know, things that have to be done correctly, we have to have deadlines. So if somebody comes in at the last minute with a presentation or with photos or something, we're not going to be able to set it up, because I want to make sure that everything works the way it should here. And this way you have advantage of going through that at your leisure before the meeting, if you have it in a timely manner. The other thing I want to look at, and we kind of went through, I went through Bonnie's bills and looked at, and there was some discussion that we had at the last meeting about, you know, do you need a planner? And, you know, every organization that I've worked in and has had a planner on a retainer process where if there's an issue that came up, that, you know, the planner would be forward and deal with it. Now, if it was a rezoning, if it was some type of variance, some issue that comes back before one of our boards or from this, in front of this commission, there are fees that are charged for those types of services. Now, depending on some of those fees, sometimes they are greater, our expenses are greater than what we're charging. But we have a right to recoup from those individuals or the developers or the builders, whoever it might be, our expenses. You know, there's expenses from attorneys, there's expenses from planners, there's expenses from staff. So I'm going to be looking at making some recommendations, kind of in a lot of the municipalities that I've worked in, we've had a retainer type setup where, you know, somebody comes in and they maybe if it's a variance or a zoning change, they put $100 or $1,000 down. Okay, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to cost them $1,000. It's going to, you know, whatever the normal fee is plus the time that it's going to take for the attorney and the staff and the planner, if the planner's needed to go through and do it. If it's a project that, you know, maybe it involves splitting up lots and doing other things, that it's going to be more involved. Once they hit, say, $900, they're going to get a phone call, hey, we need more money deposited in the retainer. So we're sure that we're going to get our expenses back. And I don't think that's been done in the past, and that's something I would like to research and bring back forward to you as a policy that we can set so we can recoup some of those funds. And then the last thing I have is it's Parents Weekend this weekend at the University of Alabama. I know I'm, you know, I am planning on being out unless there's an objection Thursday and Friday, and the weekend I'll be back in on Monday. But I will be in contact via telephone, and our chief is here, you know, covering if somebody needs to see somebody right away. But hopefully things will rest for 2 days, and I can drive up there and drive back. So.
And we have our next budget meeting next Tuesday.
Our next budget meeting is Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And then we have a regular meeting Well, that's another thing I just wanted to kind of bring up, and, when we change from our regular course of meetings, and I need to make sure that every commissioner knows what's going on when we do make a change like that, because if somebody's not here at a meeting and they miss it, I need to make sure that everybody's aware of that. But, there's, I dropped the ball, I think, out of some of that communication with changing the meeting dates. And I just want to make sure, want to make sure you all get that information, and if we need to do something differently, and things come up, I realize. So, I'm done.
Okay. I sympathize with, preparing agendas and agenda packages. It's really like making sausage. Nobody wants to see it done, that's for sure. And there's always some last-minute changes that have to be done, and that's a problem. Are there any other commissioner comments? I'm going to make one real brief comment about an article I read in the Palm Beach Post yesterday about septic to sewer. And I'm going to keep it very simple. I read it, to say the least, it was a very superficial look at a complex problem. And quite frankly, I don't know what the point of the article was. To me, it was disappointing that the reporter did not do a comprehensive look at the problem or even identify the different scenarios we were looking at. So I'm not even sure what the point of the article was, and I really thought it was just useless. And that's my personal comment for today. Any other commission comments? If not, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.